20 years, he's advised everyone from regular folks to royalty, literally. And his clients include people like Eva Longoria and Tyra Banks. He's written bestsellers, gone viral on every platform you can name, and also built one of the most loyal female audiences on the internet, helping people find maybe the most important thing in the world, love, and keeping it. So without further ado, let's bring on Matthew Hussey to talk about how do we find love, how do we keep it, how do we date, and how do we not just get married, but stay married happily. So for my single friends, I keep hearing that it's harder than ever out there, that they can't find someone, even if they were married before, they're divorced, they're trying to figure it out. You've been doing this for 18 years, talking to people about dating and psychology and marriage and partnership. Is it harder now today than any other time? And what's different now?
I think in some ways it is harder now. I think there's more and more news stories now about what's happening for men and women. Yeah. Not that I want to plunge headfirst into those political debates, but it's become, I think, hard to ignore that there is something going on that is making life difficult at all different age groups. Yeah. You have people who are out there who are really looking for commitment. You have women looking for commitment, and we're living in a world where, I don't know the stats off by heart, but women are making more money, men are struggling, a lot of men, not all men, but a lot of men. Women are more educated, a lot less men by comparison are graduating. So there seems to be something going on there in terms of, women whose standards have gone up, men who are struggling to keep pace. Yep. How does that then show up in dating in terms of, are women happy with who they're meeting? Are men happy with who they're meeting, or the ways that they're feeling necessary, or in any way, are they struggling with where they are? Are they struggling with their confidence? I think there's just an awful lot going on in terms of men feeling sidelined and men not feeling like they match up to some ideal. That's going on the women's side too. Women feel like they're not matching up to an ideal. I think social media has created an ideal that's so hard for any of us to live up to. It's created a completely fake image of what success is, of what a good-looking person is. Like, you can't even trust what Santorini looks like anymore.
That's so true.
You know what I mean? How could you not be disappointed these days going to Santorini? It's been perfected on Instagram. So, what has happened to holiday destinations has happened to our faces, has happened to people, has happened to lifestyles. So there's a kind of impossible standard that I think a lot of people are looking for. And like I said, we can get into it, but I think it affects people differently depending on the age they are.
Interesting.
Whether they're in their 20s, and you're now finding, I saw a news piece the other day that Gen Z women are having an easier time, some of them dating millennial men, because some of their political beliefs are more aligned than they are with men their own age, because we're living in this really strange time where, it used to be the case that young people were the most liberal, and now, especially among men, they trend more conservative. So you've now got a lot of very liberal women finding a lot of men their age have very different views than them on life, and they're finding that older men have more things in common in terms of their views than men their own age. Again, these are generalizations, but there's something really fascinating about that. Then you've got people coming out of marriages in their 50s saying, especially if they're a woman, I'm dating guys who are expecting, very old ways of being, and I have to show up, very grateful and very submissive to a relationship and having no needs. Meanwhile, they're not offering an awful lot. Many of them don't want to commit again. They don't want to get married again. They don't want to be back in a situation where they're being told what to do or where they're having to answer to anybody. So there's just so many mismatches across the board right now. And there is a bit of a sense of it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it does feel like that. It's interesting because you coach, through your business, which we'll talk about, Matthew AI, and then also all the events and everything that you do, you coach and talk to thousands and thousands of people about dating and millions of people across social media. Do you find, are people happier when they date somebody or marry somebody that has the same political view as them, or no?
I think it removes a variable. You know, I think it takes something off the table that becomes a deep source of antagonism in a relationship. I mean, it's not I deal with people who are, you know, you've got one person in the relationship who has one stance on abortion and the other side has a completely different stance. That's really tricky because it, you know, we're not talking two people in a relationship who are like, one of them thinks we should pay a bit more in tax and the other one doesn't, right. Which kind of, you know, those situations are a little easier because it's just like, you know, you believe in higher taxes and I don't. When it comes to those more deep-seated issues, it's very hard for people. And also, you know, we live in a world I'd be the last person to make the point that we're so divided. And so it's much more now, I think, you know, people have said, if you hear one person's belief now, you kind of tend to know everything they believe.
Yep.
Because of whatever echo chamber they're in. And so I think you have two people meeting where it's not just like there are nuances in, they have different, like they agree for the most part over here, but then there's just some areas where they just don't quite align. Usually it's like, no, you believe all of these different things and I believe all of these different things. And that's a hard relationship to have unless you've got two extremely compassionate, curious, yep, and empathetic people who are trying to understand each other, but that doesn't exactly portray the landscape right now, does it?
No, it almost feels like people want to lead first with ideology. It's like, I am my ideology, as opposed to I want to be with another human. Yeah. You know, when I was younger, I don't think I really cared or anybody knew so much what political aisle somebody else was on. It wasn't a topic of conversation we talked about consistently. And I wouldn't have said, I would never date Matthew because he's X and I'm Y. I'd be like, he seems super interesting. Oh, he has that political view? Whatever. Kind of doesn't matter. Yeah. If you're young and you're having a hard time finding somebody, do you think, like, does it help if you're like, man, maybe I should try dating across the aisle? Or are you like, no, it's actually a bad idea because now you just have all this friction later because we're so closely tied to our ideologies?
I think that we should try and be on the lookout for the values that seem to transcend what people think. Yeah. You know, I think it was Christopher Hitchens once said, it's more important how someone thinks than what they think.
Yes. I love Hitchens.
Yeah.
Letters to a Young Contrarian.
I'm sad.
Such a classic.
It's a great book. And I'm sad that we don't get to hear his opinions on everything today.
Yeah, me too. Could you
It always feels like one of the great losses of our lives now that we don't get to hear him weigh in on things. Yeah. He's a voice I miss tremendously.
He'd be a good person for young people to listen to too. Because he was like a socialist and a communist and then a capitalist and then an atheist.
Who would he have been in God? 20 years if he'd lived another 20 years?
He would have gone all backwards again. Probably,
yeah, I don't know. It'd be fascinating to hear. And so, but you know, I always admired that idea of, how you think, not what you think. And, you know, me and my wife, Audrey, did not start with all the same beliefs about everything.
You didn't lay your voting card on the table. You met her. No. Say, can you walk me through each decision, please?
But it was, what was clear early on was that we did have some different stances on things. And the more we were in each other's worlds, I think we've really affected each other. You know, both of us have changed. And that to me there's something very, very beautiful about that. So if I had written her off because she believes different things than me and she'd written me off for the same reason, we might have been missing something more important, which is that actually at our core, Audrey and I are both intensely curious people. And I'm more interested in truth than I am in being right. So that, which by the way, is always, this is a very besides the point to make, but I always think it's an important point for people to hear. is that saves you actually from fear of embarrassment. And, you know, in an interview like this, right, or a conversation like this, it would be very scary to go in thinking that the goal is to be right.
Yeah.
Because then if I misstep and say something that I turn out to be wrong about, it's a really hard thing for my ego to try and reverse out of that. But if I instead say, I just care about finding what's true, then I can change my position on anything at any time. And there's something very powerful about that. And I think that if you can bring that to a relationship, then you have a relationship between two people where they're both constantly evolving. So there's a certain magic to that you are prepared to change your mind about things, and I'm prepared to change my mind about things. And because we know that about each other, we're not keeping a scorecard of who's right and who's wrong. Instead, there's something very disarming when you see someone else that you're with in a relationship say, "You've made me think differently about that." Because it lowers your guard. When you hear someone say that, you then think, why am I being so stiff about my opinions? If they're willing to do that, maybe there's some areas that I need to concede on or I need to think about. And Audrey was always so good at that. She would one of the loveliest compliments she would give me, and in turn I've given her, is, because of you, I've changed my mind on that. Or because of you, I actually think a little differently about that. And I really credit you with helping me understand more about that, or seeing that a different way. It's such a gorgeous compliment to receive from someone. And I know that getting that compliment from her has it's actually disarmed me in a lot of ways. And seeing that she has the humility to shift ideas has bred more of that humility in me in a relationship where I can think of times in the past where I've been very defensive and digging my heels in on a position and very competitive about who's winning the argument. And, you know, we just don't have that in our relationship, which is lovely. And that's why I say that's deeper than what we thought was like this layer. How we thought was a much deeper layer. And because of how we thought, that we had an intense curiosity and a humility and a desire to know what's truthful, and that superseded what we thought.
It's so true. Yeah, it kind of goes back to that, like, Carol Dweck fixed versus growth mindset that she talks about. And I always thought, I mean, I've done a marriage wrong once before. And so I was married before, and I think the biggest problem was one of us, I think, was more growth mindset. So like, hey, I could be wrong now, but that doesn't mean I am wrong as a human. I'm just wrong in this moment. And like, we're going to keep figuring that out. And, you know, and if you're fixed, you're kind of like, I am either smart or I am not, or I am wrong or I am right. And that is very actually fragile, as opposed to, like, you know, Taleb's anti-fragile, which would be like, yeah, I can bend. I'm the grass or the palm tree. I'm not the oak that can break.
It's very freeing.
Yeah, it's
very freeing.
Now today, obviously, I want to obsess on the idea of how do we help more humans find love? I mean, for me in particular, if I would have said that comment 3 years ago, I probably would have, like, that's like so touchy-feely for me. I'm a finance person. Like, I'm like, what is wrong with her? Like, did she do some ayahuasca before this? But I think now that I've been, you know, married for many years, and I've watched my parents have an incredible marriage. One, I think it's such a superpower. Like, a marriage well done is so beautiful, and it's my happiest thing in my life. Like, he's incredible. And don't get me wrong, we fight all the time too and have all the issues. So I want to help people as much as we can with your expertise find love. And then I also want us, maybe even more important, it's not just about getting married, it's about staying married, right? Happily. And so stay married. And so I kind of, one of the questions I had was, one, how do you stay married? What are the traits of two people who stay married together happily?
I like talking about this because I feel I'm discovering this as I'm talking, because I've talked so much about dating. I've talked so much about getting into relationships. It's fun for me to think about this side of it because I've been asked about it less. Look, I think that you have to actually be I think a great marriage actually requires an awful lot of discipline. It's not a word that comes up a lot in relation to relationships. But I actually think discipline is really, really important, because if you have a good body, there's because there's a discipline there about the way that you show up in that area of your life. And it's not easy. It's not, there are days you don't feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like going to the gym. I would say 4 out of 5 days
Same.
that I go. I really don't. It's one of those things that I feel I'm happy I did it after I did it. Beforehand, not so much. And every area of our life is like that. Our business is like that.
Dating partnerships aren't the only ones that are really important. So are partnerships in business. If you guys right now are looking to build your business and you're confused on your next partner, on the next move in your business, I want you to know we got your back. We actually just started something only for owners of businesses who are looking to grow. It is, I think, for you. If you are a 6, 7, or 8-figure entrepreneur that feels like right now today, you don't exactly have the recipe for your growth accelerator. If that is you, we got your back. Go ahead and click the link. You can talk to our team and figure out if you should also build alongside some other humans who could be your future partners.
You know, that's so well. It has to be this thing that you go to work every day and you show up for it, and it's not always easy. You know, David Whyte describes, the British poet David Whyte describes our vocation as one of the 3 marriages that we are in. And like any marriage, you have days where you don't like it, and you have to do things you don't want to do, and you make sacrifices. And I think it's one of the things that makes people feel quite resentful of following their dreams is how disappointing following their dreams can be.
That hits too close.
But, you know, like you do this thing, you see a person, I don't know, on stage, and you go, I want to do that. But you're talking about 1/10 of the job when you see that person on stage. If someone comes and sees me at my retreat and says, I want to do that, they're seeing me in one weekend of my entire year. Most of my year is me sat in our house behind a laptop on Zoom calls, or sitting in a quiet room making content. That people don't look at that and go, I want that life.
No.
They see you on stage, I want that. And that's such a small part of it. So then someone does it and they go, oh my God, I think I'm doing it wrong, because I don't feel naturally happy all the time, or I don't feel naturally excited all of the time. So there are days where you don't want to do it. And I think there's true of relationships as well. It's challenging some days. You don't have the energy for it. You don't feel like listening to someone today when they're talking about something they're going through, and you're like, oh my God, I've 100 other things to do today. I really didn't need, on top of that, for you to be having an anxious moment about something. You know, and you feel like you don't know. But how often is it like that at work? You have 100 things to do at work, and then someone comes to you and says, I need you to deal with this. And it is a swell of resentment that, like, how dare you bring me one more thing in a day where I'm already so overloaded? But it's like, that's what you signed up for. That's the game.
That's the game.
And so when you realize that's the game, you have 2 choices. Either decide the game is worth it, or you bail, or you stop trying, which is the slow death from that point on. But you have to have a strong enough reason to believe that the game is worth it. And I have been, long before I was ever good at committing in my love life, I always thought I had a big problem with commitment.
Interesting.
And what I didn't quite realize was that I had already been married I'd been in a marriage for a good 10 years of my life that I had been faithful to in this organization I'd created and the work that I do. So it turns out I was quite good at committing when I had a big enough reason. Mm-hmm. And I think that in relationships, that one of the greatest things we can have is really start with a big enough reason to want to listen to that person have a problem today, to want to wake up and see if you can anticipate a little bit what might make their day better. what might make the relationship a bit stronger. That to me is everything. And I think I am more connected today to why this relationship is important than I've ever been in my entire life.
What is the reason why it's important to you?
It makes my whole life better. Everything good in my life is made better by my relationship with my wife, and everything bad in my life is made easier by my relationship with my wife. She is the amplifier for all good things and a balm for all bad things. And so she's like this core asset in my life, this core thing that has this wonderful effect on everything else. And so for me, it's just so, if I'm resentful or if I'm feeling annoyed or I've lost sight of the bigger picture, which is like, dummy, your life is so, like, you have forgotten how much better your life is because this person is in it.
What do you do in those moments? Like when you have a moment, you're in your relationship, you get resentful and you start pushing one way or the other. How do you realign and remember why you were there in the first place? Do you have frameworks or tactics you use?
I do. I have this is where we could really end up geeking out, but I have these things I call emotional buttons. And they are, this is a big module on my retreat, but it only became a module on my retreat because I had been using it in my life for so long that I felt like I can't not talk about it. But when we feel an emotion and it's a good emotion and we want to feel it again, it's really, really important to just like hit pause and go, what's happening right now? Is there a kind of set of ingredients right now that has led to me feeling this way? And it can be, it can be something really simple. I mean, there's a in that movie, The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg, and I forget the other guy's name, but it's about two brothers, really. It's about this relationship between two brothers. And there's this moment where Mark Wahlberg is about to get in the ring for this big fight. And his older brother is stood there with him. And he puts his forehead against Mark Wahlberg's head. And he's just talking to him. But I get goosebumps as I'm saying it because he's talking to him, but he's being like, he's making him feel safe in a moment where there's so much going on and there's so much noise and there's so many nerves, and his older brother is really there for him in that moment. And it became this instant kind of emotional button for me for why I wanted to be a good brother. It's almost like bypassed logic, right? Yeah. It's just, I saw a thing and instantly I was like, I want to be a better brother. I've got two younger brothers. I'm one of three. Like that, that is an image of the way I want to be a brother to my younger brothers. And the thing I love about emotional buttons is that they bypass, I don't have to write an essay to myself on my why for wanting to be a good brother. An emotional button just bypasses that. All I need to do is call back that image, that moment. And sometimes it's the music from that moment, if you want to use music. Sometimes it's the picture of that moment. Sometimes it's the literal YouTube clip of that moment. But I can literally go back there. Now, a lot of us do this unconsciously anyway, right? We have songs we listen to put us in a certain state, and we have videos we like to watch that pump us up and so on. But what I'm suggesting is much more granular than that. It would be too simplistic to describe it as motivation. I have emotional buttons for so many different, very nuanced things in my life. I have emotional buttons for being a great brother. I have emotional buttons for socializing, because guess what? I'm an introvert who has socializing for me takes a lot of energy, but I have emotional buttons that I've written down that make me want to socialize when I reconnect with them. So to your point, to circle back, I have lots of emotional buttons for wanting to be an amazing partner and for how wonderful my relationship is and how lucky I am and the kind of husband I want to be to my wife. I have emotional buttons, and they're not things I've conjured out of thin air. That's the beautiful thing about emotional buttons. You're actually working with things, tapping into nerves you've already touched before.
It's brilliant.
Just by paying attention and recording the formula. Winston Churchill said, men occasionally stumble over the truth, but most pick themselves up and carry on as if nothing happened. And I would say anytime we stumble over a moment of peace, a moment of love for our spouse, like an uncommon moment of love for your spouse, where you just, sometimes Audrey has a laugh. I've never told her this actually, but there is a certain kind of like guttural laugh. She has almost like a dirty laugh that she has when you really make her laugh.
Uh-huh.
I'm not funny enough to make her laugh like that every week, but like when I do, it's the greatest thing on earth. Like I live for that laugh.
Wow.
And something about that laugh, hard to even put into words, but there's something about that laugh that makes me love her so much. So me just remembering that under my emotional buttons for my relationship with Audrey would be that deep, like guttural, dirty laugh she does when she's really finds something funny. I think of that. I feel love for Audrey now as I'm saying it.
Yeah. I feel love for Audrey as you're saying it. I'm like, this is contagious. I'm like, I want to hear that laugh.
But that's, well, by the way, I mean, then we get into a whole other territory there, because that's, that's why our favorite teachers at school were our favorite teachers, is because they were able to actually pass emotional buttons on to us. They loved something so much that there was a way of talking about it, a way of describing it, that they may have even been able to infect us with their emotional button. So if you were to open up my laptop, there's a file called Emotional Buttons, and it's broken down by all of the different things that I want to feel, because like Winston Churchill said, I never stumble over an emotion. Wow. Or a moment without just stopping and going, why do I feel so good right now? What is this? What's happening? What's the little formula that's going on here that I need to pay attention to, so that I don't have to wait until I stumble back over this by accident?
That's so good. It's almost like muscle memory when you're working out, how, you're supposed to pay attention. Like right now, I really am trying to flex my left glute because I want to activate it. And when I feel that, like you can feel it. But if you haven't actually paid attention to it before, it's hard to separate one muscle from another one. You could just be this cacophony of muscle movements, think you're working out, and actually not target at all the right areas.
That's exactly right. Because the button you would use to feel energized and like, let's go, is a different thing than maybe just contentment.
Right.
Or peace.
And you might not know why. And so then you become this series of accidents, like you talk about, where you don't know why your emotions are so all over the place. You don't know why you're feeling this way today or not, as opposed to like, I do recognize that I feel anxious in this moment, which happens just about every time I have 2.5 cups of coffee. and I don't get a good night's sleep because I sleep better with my spouse. That is such a powerful unlock. I'm going to start doing that.
I literally, there's almost no tool that I use more in my life than I have a little day planner that I put my to-dos in and whatnot. And if you could open it up now, you would see that every day, the first thing, and I'm not someone who's like 1,000 morning routines and all of that, but like there is this one thing that I tried to do. I don't always get it done, but I tried to spend just 5 minutes in the morning, open up my emotional buttons file and just pick a selection to engage with, because it's like having a kind of treasure trove of all of these things that tap into beautiful states that bypass logic and just make me feel like I feel very, very abundant when I look at them.
And you know what else I like about it? It's really simple. Like if I think about my husband, he notices them more. He has much better self-awareness and body awareness than I do. And so when he gives me a hug and he does this like deep breath kind of hug thing that if anybody else did it to me, it would totally freak me out. But when he does it, it's like, I just feel down regulation. I immediately am like, that just got rid of all this stress I didn't realize I had. And it was just this big hug that I got from him. And if you asked me that question, what do I think would lead to a happy marriage, or what's my deep why? I would have gone cerebral. I would have said, because this is your partner through life and they're there for difficult times, and remember that. But it's way more powerful actually to feel it.
Yeah, and you're right, by the way. You're absolutely right. That's a perfect answer. What I like about what you're describing is, if it is the why, right? Like if you had a table, it would be like, on this side is your actions, and on this side is your why for taking that action. Why am I going to take an action in my relationship today? Actions take effort. Actions take energy. Why? How can I get myself to do this thing? And of course, as much has been written on starting with why.
Yeah.
And, you know, a friend of mine, Simon Sinek, has like led that charge. But what I'm intensely interested in is the bridge between action and why.
Yeah.
How can we get to the why quicker? What's like the main line where you can just push a button and that button is an instant trigger for your why, without you having to go through the process of every time you need to connect with your why, sitting there and going, I'm going to journal about what my why is in this area. What's like the instant like connector switch? And for me, that the middle column between those two is emotional buttons.
That's so good. Now, let's say that somebody's listening and they're like, all right, I'm not with somebody yet. Or a lot of people, I think, are with somebody and they're super unhappy. Like, I know a lot of married people these days who say, I get it a lot from men, actually. Man, I wish my wife worked as much, as you did. I wish she understood the business. She's not as supportive with working all the time. So I guess my question is it better to have no spouse than an unsupportive spouse?
Yes. But it depends what we mean by unsupportive. Like, to what extent? How do we define unsupportive? Because there's so much to say on this. Firstly, if we start from a place of, there are many different ways to live a good life, and charging forward with a business that energizes and excites you is one potential route to a good life. So is being a teacher. So is having a hobby that you love, that you lose yourself in. So is being someone who's just very into creating peace in their life and doesn't need to be racing around all the time in order to be happy.
Sounds nice.
I'm one of the things, I'm not to be too self-referential, I want to be careful, but I am the kind of type A, like, I've always been that hyper ambitious, charge after it. One of the things I've been most grateful for is having someone who also brought a different energy to the table. And I think that sometimes we live so much in our little, like, narrow lane of how we live our lives, that we don't realize actually there might be some real merit to the way that someone else prioritizes differently than we do. And that might be just the kind of medicine that we need to help balance us out a little bit. So sometimes what people define as unsupportive, I think, is someone with values that says, for me, a good life isn't working day and night. That's not what a good life is to me. So then, and I would say there's nothing wrong with that. It might even be healthier. But the question is then, okay, so then how do these two worlds mesh? Mm-hmm. Is this person sort of this active impediment to certain goals that you have that are really important to you, and takes no time to understand or see where you're coming from or what you're trying to do and why it's so important to you? And are you someone who can't stand the fact that they live life differently than you, even when they're not necessarily asking you to be anything else? If they want to build out their days differently, that's their prerogative. I think that there's an arrogance among a lot of entrepreneurs and people who start things up, that they think if you don't if you're not on board, you don't get it and you don't support me. And it's like, no, you being with an entrepreneur is a nightmare.
Yeah,
it's a
true.
nightmare. It's like you like many of them are workaholics. They never stop. They're always talking shop. They can't get their brain off the business. They're in anxious states a lot of the time because it's like a lot of the time it's make or break, and you feel this immense pressure and stress. And also, let's be real. There is something wildly selfish about being an entrepreneur. Like that.
And irrational.
It's like people, I'm doing this for, no, you're doing this for you. Most people are doing it because it's your dream.
Yep.
It's a bit like we think when it's building a business, that somehow people get a bit more righteous about it. But if someone if someone's partner said, I'm going to go and act in Los Angeles, but I'm doing this for us, you'd be like, no, I support you and I love you. And if this is going to make you happy, then let's figure it out. But don't tell me that you're moving to Hollywood and making less money and doing all of these auditions for us. This is your dream. And I think we have to be very careful when we have a thing that we want to do, when it's important to us or our sense of significance or our sense of purpose or our ego, that we do this. And then we want to be mad at someone else because they don't get it and they're not like on board with us. A team is one where I recognize your goals and you recognize mine, and we both really, really care about each other's goals. And we really look at all those goals and we say, look, I get this is really, really important to you. How do we make this work? Like, what can we do? And you do the same for me. It's not one-sided. We do it for each other. That's a healthy relationship. But I get a little frustrated with all of the people out there who have decided that they're going to go on this crazy mission. And then they're mad at their partners for having questions.
Yeah, it's actually, when you say it that way, it's so true. Do you think, it's interesting. You talk to a lot of women about dating and how to not settle in their relationship and in the love that they found or find. What is your best advice for women on making sure they don't settle?
To cut to the core of it, be very, very honest with yourself about what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. Because we tend to settle for things when we're not actually being honest about what's going to make us happy. So for example, you start seeing someone who is, charismatic and sexy and, makes you feel alive, and you have a great time with them. You feel this amazing connection. But let's say there are some major catches. They don't want a relationship. They continue to see other people. They are extremely inconsistent with their communication. They are completely out of sight, out of mind when you're not with them. So you never feel safe. You constantly feel anxious. You don't feel like you can ever fully hold on to them. It never really feels like you're together. And so you're living for the next time you're with them, which is amazing when it happens, but it's miserable when you're not with them. And even when you're with them, if you're honest, it's kind of miserable on some level, because even though you're happy, you just can't keep looking at your watch going, when is this going to end? I know it's going to end in a few hours, and then I might not hear from them for another week or two. Like that, in that situation, which is extremely common, we are incredibly unhappy. And we are lying to ourselves that we're happy. And we settle for that because we say, I can't give them up. They make me happy. They don't make you happy. They make you really, really unhappy. You feel anxious. You feel unloved. You feel forgotten about. You feel unimportant. You don't even feel chosen because they're not even telling you that they're going to be with you to the exclusion of other people. You don't feel safe. You are unhappy. You're telling yourself you're happy, It's not true. And to me, a great piece of advice is the next time you go out to date, ask yourself, okay, before I even meet someone I'm attracted to, what was missing last time around that because that thing was missing, no matter how wonderful I thought that person was, because that thing was missing, I was miserable. It was a version of hell. And look, I've been in a relationship before where I did not feel safe. I felt anxious all the time. I was constantly feeling insecure. And I really didn't want to lose the relationship. And I was so unhappy. Even one of my dear friends, my publisher, Karen Rinaldi at HarperCollins, she said, I came to see you one day during that relationship. And, I left and I spoke to my sister. I know her sister as well. She said, I spoke to my sister and my sister said, how's Matthew? And she said, he is not happy. Like I can see it in his face. He is not happy. Now, at the time, I would have told you, I'm great. I was miserable. I just didn't want to admit it to myself because then I'd have to do something I was scared of.
Yeah.
But, which is, by the way, either leaving or speaking up for yourself. But we're afraid to speak up for ourselves because we think that if we speak up for ourselves, then it's going to spell the end of the relationship.
Right.
We're only going to keep that relationship if we continue to keep our needs very, very small.
Yeah. Well,
and not ask for a lot.
And heartbreak is just, once you felt it, it's, you have PTSD. You don't want to feel it again. And it can feel so heavy and overwhelming. And so I get why we delay. It's like anything. When something fails or breaks, whether it's in business or in love, it sticks with you. And so, you actually help a lot of women with the worst case scenario, theoretically, which would be heartbreak. What do you do to help somebody through a broken heart, or what do you tell them so that they get over the PTSD?
And by the way, like I should say this because I know you have tons of men in your audience. Actually, these days we're a very mixed audience. Like we have everybody. I used to address more videos to women. These days I kind of removed the pronouns from it because I'm like, everyone's here.
Plus, we can do that in 2025.
Plus, we can do that.
Last year you couldn't do it, but this year you can.
No, I stopped. I'm like, this is so universal. This is so for everybody. I'm not like we have a huge gay audience. We have a huge male audience. We have women. We have everybody. So I'm like,
humans.
Yeah, heartbreak is something we all go through, and it's the heartbreak. There's a difference between acute heartbreak and chronic heartbreak, and acute heartbreak is what we all go through when we experience a big loss in our lives. And the heartbreak where someone leaves us and we didn't want them to leave us, especially, although we can still get heartbroken when we're the one leaving and doing something that we feel is right for us, but we're going to miss someone. It's a form of grief. And, as my friend David Kessler says, who's the #1 grief expert in the world, grief is nothing but a change we didn't want. And that in heartbreak, we experience the grief of this loss of somebody, and we have to work through that grief. That's acute heartbreak. Chronic, and by the way, everyone moves through acute heartbreak. Chronic heartbreak is what takes over when we can't seem to get out of it, when it sticks with us. And it sticks with us because it becomes a story. There's the facts. I lost someone. That's hard. I'm having to adjust. I miss them. I even miss the chemicals that flood my body when I have someone in my life. I miss the routines. I feel lonely when I'm by myself. I'm sad about the history that I've lost. I'm disappointed that the future I thought was going to happen is not the future that I'm being presented with, that it's going to be a different future than the one I had planned. That's all acute heartbreak. But when we create a story that makes that heartbreak never end, that's when it becomes chronic. So for example, a story would be, they were the love of my life, or let me correct that. They are the love of my life. And they left. So now within that one statement, you have a recipe for chronic heartbreak. Because now, no matter whether it's year 1, year 3, or year 5, the love of my life is out there somewhere, dating other people, getting married to somebody else, living their life, and they're not with me.
Does that happen a lot? Do a lot of people?
For sure, yeah. Because we go on believing they're the love of my life. And the truth is they're not the love of... They were a love in your life, but that... You have to define what does it really mean for someone to be the person that's right for you. It has to surely involve them saying yes to you.
Yeah. So a lot of this is like definitions.
It's really important to say, if someone doesn't choose me, they cannot be my person. Right. There's no such thing as my person is out there. They're just not choosing me. That does not make sense. By definition, the right person for us is the person who sees what's valuable about us. It's the person who chooses us. The right person can never be the person who doesn't choose you. But as long as you tell yourself, my right person broke up with me, the love of my life broke up with me, and you hold on to that story, then you'll stay heartbroken.
I've never thought about it that way. It's like if you don't know what you want, then you're going to keep repeating your patterns and you're going to think that you're happy and in love, but that's really just because you have a definition problem. And if you keep feeling like your heart is broken and you'll never get over this person, that's also a definition problem.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating. So I think a lot of times lately what I hear is people saying, and I'll just go back to women because I am a woman, but replace this with a man, and I'm sure there's something different, which is like, men don't like women who are X. So like, I want to play that game with a few of these. For instance, do men not like women who are intelligent?
Some men are threatened by women's intelligence, that's for sure. Other men won't date a woman who's not intelligent. But I think to give credit to that statement, there's an awful lot of men who are already coming to the table with a chip on their shoulder, and they are trying to figure out where their significance comes from in life. And so when they come along and you're intelligent, it's one more way that I'm not good enough. It's one more way that you're highlighting a deficit for me. And for those men, the intelligence is not high on their list because connection isn't high on their list. What's high on their list is feeling significant. Like, I know that for me and most of the men I know, being able to have great conversations with someone is an absolute must for a long-term relationship. They want someone they can shoot the shit with, they can see a movie with and leave that movie and be like, what did you think? And that person goes, oh my God, when that thing happened and I really thought it was interesting in this way and so on, that was good. Like, they're like, wait, what? No, let's talk about it. Most of the people I know want that kind of a connection and are cerebral people, so they would struggle not to have that kind of connection. So for them, if they're going into, I'm not saying they don't have their insecurities, but if they're going into a relationship going, I want a genuine connection with someone and intelligence is important to me, intelligence is actually a must for them. But if you're going into dating women and your goal is not a connection, your goal is validation, your goal is significance, then the moment someone's intelligent, you're like, this is, I'm not going to get my significance here. And then add to that, if someone feels like they don't make enough money, or they're not tall enough, or they're not whatever it is they've told themselves they must be in order to be defined as a significant and attractive male, then any of those markers can immediately throw someone off balance. And so I think that's what happens is women's intelligence throws a lot of men off balance when they're already coming from a place of insecurity.
You know, you do such a good job, and this is why I like your content so much, of being able to see both sides of the gender and being able to see different types of humans without a lot of judgment, but saying like, well, if their highest value is X and your input is Y, you're going to have Z equation. And like, we're not making judgments on it. It just what it is. Kind of goes back to your, that makes sense. Your core point is, I don't want to be right. I want to find what's true. And so I think that's why you seem to resonate with so many people, because you're like, I'm not zeitgeist. I'm not saying something to be clickbaity over here because I want to trigger somebody. I'm saying here's the truth that I found for any type of human. But it's really helpful because you don't hear that side as often.
Thank you. That's very kind. It means a lot. I think I really do see from both sides what's happening, and it's not, no one is, there's fault on both sides. You know, there is, you know, I work with women every day who are themselves valuing the wrong things, who themselves are putting too much of a premium on something that doesn't matter. Or who have forgotten that, hey, it's an extremely immature place to come from, to think that a guy has to come to you bold and confident in every way when you're not 16. He doesn't, like, it's not, stop waiting for the captain of the football team to walk through the door as this, you know, paragon of this model of confidence. He wasn't even that then.
It's like, put down the romance novel for a second.
This is a 16, you know, like, this is a 16-year-old perception of the captain of the football team. He didn't have it all figured out, and he was insecure. Yeah. He just covered it up in a whole bunch of other ways. It's like, there are women out there who are not paying enough attention to the nuances in men, or realizing that, hey, look, there are guys who are intimidated by everything. And that's a certain percentage of guys who can't handle a woman making money or more money than them, who can't handle a woman who's pretty, who they think could leave them, who can't handle someone who is intelligent or accomplished. That is too much for them. And then, you know, for a lot of people they become quite angry. Not everyone, but a lot of people do become quite angry. And then, yes, there's a small percentage of guys who, for whatever reason, their wiring, their upbringing, whatever assets they naturally have, are wildly confident and are very at ease with themselves and with women. There's a lot of people in the middle, which is the biggest group by far, who are just trying to figure out, like, where do I fit in, and what is my value? And I think that value in a relationship is a team sport. I think we hear the rhetoric all the time, like, you have to come whole, and you have to have figured out all of your stuff, and you have to, and I find that to be such a gross oversimplification. I think we all, who doesn't come to a relationship with insecurities, who doesn't come with a little, like, baggage, or like someone did something and it made you a bit jealous and now you feel threatened and you don't know how to articulate it, and we all come with something. Some people come with trust issues. Some people come with a bit of a feeling of, like, a guy might come to the table and he's always been told his whole life that he's not that bright. And so he comes to the table with an insecurity. It doesn't make him a bad guy. It's just, I come to the table feeling like I've always been put down in that department. And so now, and by the way, combine that with a low socioeconomic background, and I couldn't go to college, or whatever it might be. And I now have a bit of a propensity to think that someone who has gone through education and does come from money and whatever is a certain way. And it sometimes takes two people to come together and dissolve those caricatures we have of each other, and those ideas we have of each other, and those assumptions, to make us, like, drop our guard and go, oh, I don't need to be that. And of course, again, one of the reasons why it's difficult today is because whatever you look for, you can find it. If you want to find women who don't think, who discriminate against men constantly because of their height,
Yep.
you'll find it. There's plenty of them.
Yep.
You'll find it. But that's not all women. It's not all women care.
Mm-mm.
And some women who do care realize later on, I don't care with this guy because he's awesome. And I suddenly stopped caring because why on earth would I give up this incredible man? Like there's a part in my book where I talk about the idea of the wall and how one of the reasons why we keep, finding the same people or the same situations over and over again is because we're so focused on this wall that we want to avoid. And, Mario Andretti said it, the Formula One driver, when you're racing a car, don't stare at the wall because the car goes where your eyes go. Mm-hmm. And that is just true in so many aspects of life that we stare at the wall. Yep. I had a woman who said, she was dating a guy. She said he was lovely. She was having a great time with him. And then one Saturday, he didn't invite her to a little get together between him and his friends. And she had massive issues with abandonment. And so when he didn't do that, she thought about it for 2 nights and couldn't sleep. And then the day of, she texted him and she said, in the middle of this get together, she was like, why didn't you invite me? And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think it would be a big deal. I just haven't seen these friends in a while. Can I give you a call later? And by this point, her nervous system was fully hijacked. So she said, don't bother. Oof. Now, every day that he obeyed that wish and didn't call her felt like a validation of the thing that everyone always leaves me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I've been rejected yet again. But that's always been her wall. And you stare at that wall long enough. It's like a guy who goes into a bar thinking everyone wants to fight him.
Yeah, it's true.
You'll always, if you're that guy, you'll always look for the guy who's giving you a funny look. And you'll always find that guy. Because there's always a guy who's willing to give you a funny look and who's ready to fight, because that's his thing. So then you find that that guy finds that guy everywhere he goes and says, it's dangerous. Everywhere you go is dangerous. And I had a little bit of that, I had to work on that for myself because I grew up with a sense of, I grew up around nightclubs and my dad was a nightclub owner and I was working in a nightclub from a young age. And I saw a lot of violence and people being horrible to each other. And it kind of got my nervous system up. And so I was
were you a fighter?
I was someone who never wanted to fight.
But you did.
I was someone, no, here's the crazy part. I hated the idea of fighting with a passion, but my hobbies for my whole life were boxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. Because that's when you get preoccupied with something.
Oh, yeah.
You start making it more and more and more of a focus. Now, I still do Brazilian jiu-jitsu because I love it, but it's not coming from the place it once did, which is I always have to be ready, because anything can happen at any time. And then when you're looking for that, and I wrote a whole story in my book about it, where I was in Japan with my brothers, and one of my brothers was singing karaoke in this bar in Japan, and everyone's having a good time. And I spotted, because that was my hypervigilance, I spot the one guy in the room who's giving my brother this funny look. And in my brain, I'm like, something's going to happen any minute. This is going to kick off. And my brother's the sweetest, most loving. He's by the way, 6'4", 5, whatever, does not need me to protect him. But in my older brother brain, I'm like, this is going to kick off, and my brother doesn't realize, and this is the problem. No one else is paying attention. I'm the only one who's paying attention. So I'm the one. I ended up saying something to this person, and of course, the way that I said something to this person instantly created a situation because I wasn't sweet and nice and whatever, and I spoke with a certain tone that made this person be like, "I'm sorry." Now we're in something. So that's an example of you're looking at the wall and crashing into it every time. And if you stare at your personal wall for long enough, whether it's that danger is always present, whether it's that no one can be trusted, whether it's that people always cheat,
Men
whether
are
it's
bad.
that
Women are bad.
whatever that wall is, if you stare at it for long enough, you won't realize it's the wall anymore. You'll think it's the world. And once your wall becomes your world, you don't go, this is what life is like for me, or this is what life is. This is what men are. This is what women are. And that's what you have. So much of what's online right now is people who have made a decision about who women are.
Yep.
Because they're focused on their wall. And they keep speaking to other people who have the same wall. And confirming, isn't this right? Isn't this reality? Isn't this reality? Isn't this reality? And they all agree, yes, it is. This is women. And then you've got women doing the same thing about men. And you've got that. And meanwhile, somehow, there are all these relationships in the world between people who just actually really love each other and don't think about any of that. How is that possible? And people will say, oh, that's because they're good looking, or that's because... Really? You want to go around the world and look at every couple you see and tell me that their magazine level looks and that they all fit the stereotype of people who have got it all together or who are rich and gorgeous and intelligent and funny? And no, every day, people with the same excuses as you find relationships. And that doesn't mean, by the way, you should shame yourself for not finding one, because the reality is, finding love is hard. Mm-hmm. It is hard. There is nothing easy about finding the person you're going to share a room with for the rest of your life. That is not an easy thing. And the people who do it early and stay together, more power to them. Lucky f***s. Like, if you've met in college at 21, the love of your life, and you didn't settle, you're just genuinely happy forever, good for you. That is not normal. Yeah. Most people marry the wrong person too early, stay in unhappy relationships too long for half their lives until they finally get out, if they ever do, or never find anyone, because it's hard. It is hard. So I don't want any of what I'm saying to come across like I'm saying it's easy and we're just making excuses and all. No. It is hard. But I know for sure the route out of that is not to huddle together with people who have all the same hang-ups that we do. Yep. And confirm that this world I'm living in is the only reality that is available, because it's simply not true.
That's so good. It's perfect, because I'm thinking about a family member right now who is lovely, who I really want to find somebody. But I think she is looking at the wall, and her wall is men don't want to be in serious relationships. Men don't actually want to be with a working woman. They don't exist in my city. They exist in other cities. And if you just maybe allow that wall to become a curtain that you could potentially push aside for a second and see if there might be something on the other side, God, maybe your entire life would change. And it kind of takes me to one of the last things I want to talk about, which is you've found this. You found that there's thousands or millions of people all around the world who have, hundreds of thousands of questions about how do I find someone? And so you did something a little crazy, which is you created Matthew AI, which is essentially AI that takes all of the data and all of the experiences that you've had in your books and all of your courses and puts it into one spot where people can go back and forth with you to figure out their unique answers to their questions, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is exactly?
So the biggest challenge I've ever had in what I do is that for 17 years, people have been asking for one-to-one coaching with me. Yeah. Or even if they never felt like that was available to them, DMing me with questions. I could be on a live with thousands of people and I'm getting thousands of questions all at the same time. Everyone wants an answer to their specific question. And we all are at different stages of life, having different challenges. We have different walls. All of us have a contextual question
Yeah.
that we're like, okay, I get it, but here's my situation. And I have never been able to solve that until the last year. I'd never had an antidote to that other than to create courses and programs that catered to as many people as possible. But obviously the optimal would be that I would go and visit everyone individually in their home, sit with them and work with them. What we created with Matthew AI was, for the first time, a way that I could actually do that. Because as you say, we took 20 years of my content, courses, retreats, all the things, by the way, 99% of my audience have never taken. Most people watch me on YouTube or Instagram. They literally are just scratching the surface of all of the things that I actually coach when I work with people. But it took all of that and it put it into Matthew AI. And now Matthew AI is this service. Anyone who wants to try this, by the way, can try it for free at askmh.com. You can spend a few minutes with it just asking questions and see. People who are using it are routinely having their minds blown by how tailored the advice is, that it's not like generic. It's my advice first off. So you're not just getting advice from the internet, but how specific it is to their situation. Whether it's, I literally need to know what to text back right now. Can you help me with a text? Or my dating profile isn't getting matches. Can you help me redesign it? Or I have anxious attachment and I really like someone and I feel like my anxiety is going to blow it in the first few weeks or months of dating. Or I'm heartbroken and I literally need to talk to a coach for 3 hours every single day for the next 2 months. Like, it is helping people with both the very practical issues that they're going through, where they need to know what to do or what to say or how to decode something, what it means. People are uploading text message chains and going, what does this mean? Like, how do I interpret what they're saying? All the way to the much deeper issues of, how do I heal? How do I move on? How can I stop thinking about this person? How can I get through the worst time of my life? So, and it, by the way, is doing it in all different languages. We have people, like, literally you'll hear my voice. If you want to text it, you can text it.
I already did this, by the way. I already had some fun with Matthew AI. We tried to make it like mess up too, because I thought that would be fun. And it did it. You know, I was like, you know, what if I'm really into cheating and also I want to sell the other person's feet pics? And it was like, that's not a good idea. And it's really important in relationships that we have it based on honesty and integrity and blah. And I was like, this guy.
It didn't just support your evil goals.
No, it didn't just, which is really important. You know,
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, you want to make sure, if you have friends, what do friends do? They're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, you're the best. He's wrong. It's him, not you. And I think what I liked about this in particular is I could see how people could come to it. And it is actually very emotionally hard to give advice that is needed, not what is wanted. And if you're not a pro and you just go to your buddies, you're never going to hear the things that you really need. Unless you have it one very rare, strong-willed human who's also highly trained in it. And so I had fun seeing that they could have a version of you who also is not always the nicest, the kind, but not always, you know, exactly maybe what somebody wants.
No, it's real. And because it's what I would say.
Yeah.
It's you're hearing what I would say to you if you asked me that question. And it's and to your point, by the way, it's not just that it will be honest with you, it's that you can be truly honest with it. Because I have people who tell me there are things that I can ask Matthew AI and share that I would never ask my friends, or it's far too vulnerable for me to say this to anyone in my life. I even have a very small group of clients that I work with over the course of a whole year called Club 320. And I have women who are in that group who tell me, I can access you as a coach. Like, every month we have a call together. They're like, I know I can ask you a question. And there are questions I've still asked Matthew AI because they are so intimate that I know, like, I just can't ask you directly, which they can, but they don't want, you know, it's like some people are like
feet pics.
Yeah. When it's regarding the sexualization of their feet, but they'll go and ask Matthew AI something that they wouldn't even ask me. So it's a very, very, like, it's discreet. It's tailored, it's contextual, it's immediate. You're not waiting a week for an answer. You couldn't, even the clients that I'm closest to can't call me at 2 a.m. Whereas if you're in the middle of the night, you can't sleep and you're worried about like a situation you're in, or you're scared that you're going to text someone you shouldn't, or someone just sent you a text and it's got your heart racing. The Matthew AI is literally there in that moment to answer in the moment, which is what makes the biggest difference.
It's so cool. I think that's a real innovation. You were super early, like we were talking about before on YouTube, 20 years doing this on the internet, real longevity and expertise. And then this new world of, I think learning in the future is not going to be courses. It is going to be, I want hyper-specific, immediate feedback loops so that I can learn at my progress level and speed. And so I think it's really cool. And I hope more people do something like that because, man, like how incredible. We quoted, I don't know, we had 5 or 6 quotes between us of some people that we think extremely highly of through history. What would it be like to get to conversate with a Winston Churchill?
It's literally like what we said. Like, I wish Christopher Hitchens was here. I would be, if I had
Full
Christopher
circle.
Hitchens, if I had Hitch AI, I would be asking him like about every world conflict right now, every world leader. I'd be going, what do you think of this? Like, tell me. I just have to know. Like, there's something fascinating about that idea of especially in a world where it feels like everything has become so expensive, like the democratization of access to someone that you really would like to speak to. That to me is really exciting. The idea that someone who couldn't afford to come to one of my live retreats can still get access to me in that way is very, very comforting.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you, Matthew Hussey. Incredible information about dating and marriage, and maybe most of all, the future of AI in a way that we could apply it to love. Who would have thought?
Thanks for having me. And it's real pleasure talking to you. I know you said some very kind things about me, but
I'm not nice. I'm kind, so I meant them.
No, I appreciate it, and I feel that, and it's clear to me, why people really love what you do. You bring a real, to the point, cerebral, but still compassionate voice to the things you're doing. It's rare. What you're doing is rare.
Well, thank you. And same. And we'll link everything in the show notes. I want people to follow Matthew everywhere around the internet. I think the world is a better place if we all find a little bit of love. And I loved the line of he said, I promise you right now, every single day, other humans just like you are finding love. And that's kind of beautiful in a world that cues a little bit more of it.
Yeah.
You guys want to know something crazy? Only about 40% of you who are listening to this right now are actually subscribed to the podcast. If you want to see bigger guests, better guests, and get the answers to more of your questions, do me a solid. Hit the follow or subscribe button. And the only way this podcast grows is by you sharing it with people. It's actually the hardest thing that I've ever grown, this podcast. So do me one more solid, which is share this with somebody you love who you want to find love. All right, until next week, guys. Hey guys, if you've ever thought about buying a business, we've built what I think is the best acquisitions and business buying community and education curriculum in the world. If you've ever thought about wanting to buy or own a business, or if you want to add more businesses to the mix, it's called the Contrarian Community. And what this is the goal is we give you the 3 things that the best business buyers use: your own advisory team, your own investment committee, and a deal team. We get together each week to review deals live and beat up all the deals that you're currently looking at while you simultaneously learn the best way possible, which is called modeling, by seeing other people put together deals. This is how private equity buys businesses. This is how investment teams work. And we're stealing the methods from Wall Street and giving them to you. If this is interesting to you, go to click the link and you can actually talk to my team direct about if this is a fit or not. We can help guide you. The link is in the show description. With sales, the only thing that makes you better is more. I would actually do the opposite of what you're doing. I would obsess on one thing if I was you. What's the process? Are you now the richest of all of your friends? 75% of businesses fail. What makes the 25% that win? Persistence. Here's the good news. Everyone has the same problems. So whether you're just getting started, trying to grow, or even trying to sell for the first time, you're not the first person to be in this position. So today, I'm solving your business problems, and I'm doing it live with people I've picked at random from my community of 800 plus business buyers and owners, asking what their biggest problem is. Welcome to the Problem Profit. How can we make everybody some money around here? What can we do for you today? How can we help?
We are looking to create kind of a pipeline for new clients.
Okay, break down for me what types of clients, what are we selling? Give me some specifics.
So we're looking for some more commercial cleaning clients. So we're looking for businesses around like 10,000 square feet. The other thing, a bit related with bring out more clients, but bring out more employees.
Michelle's biggest problem is that she needs more customers and she also needs more employees. She's got the two sides of a small business as her biggest issue. We're going to solve part of the customer issue, which in commercial contracting is hard. That's a meaty issue. And then I think this getting more employees is actually way easier than anybody thinks. Let's see if we're right. What's your website?
CleanChoiceWI.com.
The lifeblood of small businesses is reviews. It is making sure that when people think, especially from a commercial standpoint, that they're going to change their service, you will crush it. And in a market like yours that's relatively small, you want to make sure that you are standing up at the top from an SEO perspective, and reviews are one of the best ways to do it. The best way to get clients is to have your current clients tell other people to come along because the service is great. 99% of consumers, before they do a purchase, they read a review. If your reviews are below 3.5 stars on average, customers will likely not consider your product. And most of the time, something like 95, 96% of the time, customers look for the negative reviews when they search through reviews, not just the positive ones. One of the most impactful things you can do in a small business is try to figure out how to get more people to say nice things about you. How many clients do you have right now?
We have 10 clients.
So I would obsess on one thing if I was you, which is reviews to start. I would reach out to every single one of your 10 clients and with a bit of a handhold, give them a reason to give you guys a review. Probably go walk into them if you can and go straight to the owner and say, I have such an embarrassing ask. We just took over this company. It would mean the world for me if you would write us a review. I kind of drafted one up right here. Like I have it on my phone. Like, could I text this to you? Would you mind? Like, are you we could workshop it. Just be so, kind of sweet and endearing. And my guess is, by and large, they're going to say yes. So you're going to go from 3 to 10 reviews. I love helping business owners solve their problems. It's miserable to go it alone, but it's not always possible for us to be in the same place doing it at the same time. When I can't meet in person, there's only one tool I use for all my conversations. That's this, Riverside, aka what you're listening to right now. Riverside ensures that I can talk to someone anywhere in the world and record it in 4K. So the quality of the video actually matches the quality of the people when I post these videos on YouTube. And when you're having a vulnerable conversation, there's no worse way to start than, can you hear me? Can you see me? That doesn't happen with Riverside. Riverside also records separate audio and video tracks so we can cut out those inevitable awkward interruptions that I know are all of our favorite parts about virtual interviews. If you don't want to edit separate tracks by hand, Riverside has already thought of that. They have in-platform editing software that edits based off of a 99% accurate AI transcription. And if that's not simple enough, they take AI one step further with their show notes. Summarize all your content into a description, optimize for SEO and automatic chapters so you know your audience knows what to expect when diving in. I love tech. I got you guys a deal. If you want to try it for yourself, get the code and link in the description. That's not going to get you what you need to get. You need a lot more reviews to do it. Now, you don't do any residential cleaning, correct?
So we work with like the larger property management companies usually. So there are like smaller companies within these buildings that see us and are work with us too, but that could be a good way to get more people.
What's kind of cool is if you Google commercial cleaning Milwaukee, which is usually where I start, the other cleaning services don't have that many. So I see one that looks like it services house cleaning as opposed to commercial that has like 200 reviews, but the rest of them, and another one that has 500 reviews. So there's 2 house cleaning services that are pretty aggressive. But the rest of them have basically no reviews. And so if you have 13 reviews plus, let's say, another 10 underneath that, plus the couple contracts you're going to do for your family and friends that they can also review you on. You're going to start ranking higher, and then you're going to have inbound.
Okay.
Then the second thing that I would do is, we talked about the referral process just a little bit. You said you're working the problem. What's the process for referrals? Do we have one right now?
Not really. It's been for me to go in and get some more face-to-face time with the clients. But again, those are usually the ones that we're cleaning for, not the property managers, or kind of who pays the bill. I don't know if I'm even necessarily, that'll be good for getting reviews, probably, is like creating that relationship. But as far as getting more clients, I don't know if I'm quite talking to the right people.
Do you have any really good relationships with the 10 clients you have right now? Are any of them like you're their really trusted person, you guys are friends?
I have some that are decent, but none that are super strong, unfortunately, right now.
Okay, so I think that should be mission critical is you don't have that many clients, so you don't need a comprehensive process, but I always feel good if I have a plan and I follow the plan. So I'd create like a little 1-page brief and an Excel spreadsheet, and in it, a simple plan. That's gonna be, I'm going to take out to coffee or lunch, or it's probably cold in Milwaukee right now. I'm gonna take them a bone broth if they're the kind of healthy type. I'm gonna take them like some hot cocoa, whatever it is, to the office. And I'm gonna ask them if I could borrow 20 or 30 minutes of their time. Again, you have a benefit that you are a new owner of this business and you all are young. And so you're asking for a favor. You're like, remember when you started out and it was tough? We're trying to get some referrals. We're so good at the service now, but we're not so good at marketing. We're not very good salespeople. Can you help me out? Yeah. And I always kind of do this, I hate to say it, works great with men. Works awesome with men. You give them a little wink, like, come on, I'm like the daughter you had that's nice to you still, And so I would use that. That's your first range. The cold calling thing is interesting. I think in the beginning of a business where you all are at, you guys are the best cold callers. And it's great to have a service, but I only usually like to bring in cold callers in my business when I already have a set process and I have a lot of what's called sales enablement. And sales enablement resources are things like, here's a list of all the testimonials we have about how great we are. Here's a list of the services that we have that's different than everybody else. Here's a list of a kind of client that we serve really well and one that we don't, and we'll refer to you to somebody else if you're not that type. Yeah. Here's what we say when they tell us no.
Right. We need to pitch, right?
Right, exactly. And so this is all called sales enablement. And you want to have these resources available for your cold calling team. Otherwise, they're not going to be very productive. And so I feel like what you guys should be doing first is probably leading from the front. And this is not that complicated. This is like you say, okay, every single day, I am for 1 hour or 2 hours max. I am going to sit down and write out a list of prospects that I think are reasonable. And I'm going to call every single one of them during that time period. And then usually at the end of the day, the next day, back when I did this when we originally had some of our businesses, I would keep a call sheet and I'd write out who are the names for the next day. And I'm a little bit older, so now you would do this all on a CRM or in your computer, but I used to write it out. And there's something really nice about crossing them off as you go. The other thing you might want to think about here is getting the avatar. The 10K square foot thing is good to know. The fact that other people, that property managers at the sort of highest level are your target is good to know. Because what you really want is a super tight avatar. Like right now, do you know who you serve incredibly well? And the answer is probably not, because you only have 10 clients.
Right.
And so whoever does your cold calling, they're only going to be as good as the data that they give you too. And so you need to create some sort of CRM, or it can be really simple in a spreadsheet of who are the owners you reached out to, where are they located, what was the square footage of the building? What kind of company was this? Were they interested? Did they take more than a phone call or not? Did they already have current cleaners, or were you their first cleaners? All the indicators of what would be a great commercial cleaners Milwaukee client, right?
Okay.
And so, so you might find out, wow, we do incredible when this is their first time getting outsourcing cleaning. That's our target. We want to find them.
Right.
Or you might say, we do incredible with office complexes that have a lot of manufacturing, they're really dirty. And so I think you need to narrow down your target avatar. All right, I don't love their sales process right now. We got to make some major changes to the way that they're going out and trying to close sales. I think violence and speed of action in sales is really important, followed very closely by a systematic way to track every single engagement you're having with potential buyers. And most people fail at the second and they never even try the first. So we got to get them to move faster on going after clients aggressively. And we got to get them to track how every single one of their interactions went. How can we help?
So in my vending business, I have a significant challenge with locating.
They need more sales.
So the primary issue is the presence of a large distributor, right? And they do vending on the side. My advantage is that I have higher quality machines, I have higher quality product, and a better customer service. And so I'm trying to figure out how I can overcome the competition.
They've got vending machines, they've got the operations, but they don't have enough revenue. We're going to see if we can figure out how to get this guy more money in the door by getting him more locations. Do you have to compete for the same business? Is there a way to tier the end user that you are going after that wouldn't be really that interesting for your competitor?
I do go for both, right? And a lot of the cases that I go into, there's already vending there. Things that I hear from people that I do end up taking over from them is that they offer poor service. They don't stock the machines. The machines are broken half the time. They don't work. And so that's when I can really get in there, but they're under contract.
Wait, let me ask another question. So what's your hit rate or your success rate on somebody already having vending with one of your competitors and they all have contracts? How often are you convincing them to come to you?
I don't know. I'd have to reach out to maybe 30 or 40 places to find one that isn't under contract or is able to move on.
What's your hit ratio if you find a spot that doesn't have vending in it right now and no competitors are in?
I haven't closed one that doesn't have vending yet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's actually a higher ratio of converting current users than converting people who don't have vending and you talk them into it. What's your sample size? How many have you reached out to?
I have reached out to probably largely around maybe 100 different businesses in the area.
So we're not dealing with really a big enough sample size, because if you only reached out to 100 and you're getting, let's say, 3 of those 90, do you know what percentage of the 100 are currently using vending machines as opposed to what percentage are not?
Yeah, I would say like 95% have vending.
So basically, how many have you reached out to that don't have vending?
Literally, it's probably been like 3 that I found that don't have vending. So like for me to identify that they don't have vending, I have to like physically go into the location. So I spend days just driving around and I see how many cars are there and I walk in and I ask them if they have vending. That's one of my first questions. Then I just continue to call, and it's usually the decision makers and thin or like a lot of these are kind of remote run businesses. So I'm not necessarily dealing with the decision maker at the first go. So I have to continually reach out in hopes that I reach them at a time when the decision maker is actually there.
The biggest thing you can do in sales is turn sales into a statistical numbers game, which means you need to document every single phone call you make. You need to document who said yes and who said no. You need to document how long it took from the moment that you called them to the moment that you closed them. With sales, the only thing that makes you better is more information and decreasing the knowledge gap. What I find with most salespeople is they instead feel like there's some sort of, if they use this word, it'll work out really well. Oh, they used this close, and so that worked. Actually, you don't sell anybody anything. You find the people who already want what you're selling, and you just figure out who are those people better, and then you don't have to sell them because they are waiting for the thing that you have. And that's a mistake I made many times in my business. And so I think he needs more numbers, but he also needs to track who are the type of people that already want what he's selling. Let's take it a step back for a second. What do most of these businesses look like that have vending that have become your ideal clients? Are they strip malls? Are they small multifamily apartment buildings? What's the profile?
Basically, they're like an office complex or just like a factory where there's lots of blue collar workers that are there. Like ideally it would be 24 hours. So like I think about facilities, manufacturing facilities that have, multi shifts.
Your process right now is really individual listings that you find and you either drive to go see them or you reach out via email or phone call to a set number of listings. Is that the process right now?
Pretty much, it's brute force. Yeah.
Yeah. And where are you located?
I'm in Corpus Christi, Texas.
So a couple things I think about when I'm trying to do a sales strategy is, first, I always ask myself, what if it was easy? So if I ask myself, what if it was easy, what would it look like? And in your case, if it was easy, I think something that would be really great for you is, what if you could get to all the owners in one place for your 3 types of target markets? So your, let's call it factories and industrial complexes, your office owner types, and then maybe you think it could be something like these absentee stores. So like, what if I could get into a room with those 3 types of people? And so I would actually do the opposite of what you're doing. What I'd want to do is I would want to go get relationships with big groups where you can be in the center of influence pool. So I don't know if you've already done this, but typically when we try to sell any of our B2B products, we go to trade association. So almost immediately I'm looking up, where's the like industrial real estate meetup Corpus Christi? Where is the office owners, office real estate investors, Corpus Christi? Where's the small business owners, SBA Corpus Christi? Because what I actually want to do is I want to just meet the owners. And if I believe that if I meet more owners than anybody else, even if they themselves do not have the facility for you to go into, you're going to develop a friendship. You're going to tell them what you do. And you're not going to try to pitch anybody. You're just going to start explaining your business. Yeah, we have an incredible business. We almost have like more demand than we can handle. And it works out because, we have vending machines and we charge nothing to put in and maintain the vending machines in people's locations. We have, I think, the best customer service out there, and it's wild. We pay people a percentage of what we sell. So it's like free found money. So I'm kind of like beating people off me, actually, to place my vending machines. And then you would say, what do you do? And if you're in the Corpus Christi real estate investors group, they're going to tell you, I own this. You're going to go, do you have a vending machine in all of yours? And they might go, yes, no, maybe so. Who else do you know who I should talk to? And I would basically build my entire business off of networking at center of influence events. So I don't know if you've thought about doing that yet, but you just have such a higher hit ratio if you can get in a room where all the players already are and you can label yourself a player. I think a couple good places to start are, one, Facebook groups are wild. There's a Facebook group for everything. So I would actually look in there, especially probably most of these people who are owners who are a little bit older. And then the second thing that I would do is I would go to a forum like Bigger Pockets, because real estate investors are going to be probably one of your best target markets. And Bigger Pockets has segmentation by every city in the country. And so I'd be trying to find who are like, what if it was really easy and there's like 5 to 10 guys you need to know in Corpus Christi who know all the guys who own all the real estate in your spheres? Yeah. How do you get to those 5 or 10? You become best buds with them. You almost do unfair deals for them. And because you did that, everything else starts spiraling from there. And so I'm going to shut up for a second, but that's kind of idea number 1. Is that helpful?
Yes, I like that idea. I never thought about, but yes, to your point, like get everybody in one room, that would be perfect.
What else would be helpful for us to discuss?
We've been trying to figure out what works really good for us to bring on those like hourly, lower wage kind of employees. And the way to do it is definitely not just setting up interviews and hoping people show up. We have no luck with that. The best way we found is actually to just start like creating a relationship with people. But I would like to give them a little bit more of a view into the job, I guess, rather than just like a phone conversation of, you're going to be cleaning a business and, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I try to create more of, a millennial culture of like, you can show up when you want as long as you're there from, for this many hours. We have a ton of flexibility. You can pick up extra hours. Like it's more under their control.
Now, when it comes to employees, I actually think this one we're going to figure out. She basically has an issue where she can't get more employees in the door. And then if she does get them, they don't show up. Every small business owner has this exact same thing. Do you have good employees right now?
Yeah.
Do you ask them for referrals and incentivize them with bonuses?
I do not. I ask them if they know anybody, but I don't have any incentives.
Almost always in every one of my businesses, the best employees you either steal from somebody else or they're referred by one of your best employees. And the great part about if they're referred is then there's a much higher likelihood they're going to keep showing because that's somebody else's responsibility. I would do 2 things. I would institute a company-wide policy for referrals and bonuses for if somebody refers somebody to the company and they stay longer than X period, whatever you want that period to be.
Right.
And I would make the bonus not immaterial. Make it something that would make them excited. And then I would go to 2 or 3 of your best employees right now, and I would sit down with them and say, I'll pay you for this hour of me sitting down with you. Would you help me think through who you might know or who other people might know that would be a good fit for our company? I want to pay you to think about referring for me. And I will also give you a bonus if any of these people come. And then if you can get 1 or 2 of them to refer, you make a really big deal about the referral and the bonus. So everybody else, you go, incredible, Stacy gave us a referral. Stacy gets something cute, make her feel really special. And then she also gets the X dollar amount bonus. And you do that a couple of times. And maybe even you keep a list every single month. The number 1 referrer is here, because what gets measured gets managed. And what people have in front of their face is usually the thing, from a recency bias, they continue to pay attention to. And so that's where I'm starting.
Too, because we don't even have any regular communication between all of our employees. Usually it's just us to them. They don't even know each other. So setting up, even a little employee newsletter to kind of let them know what's going on could be a great way to share that information.
100%. Yeah. And some of the fun things you can do in an employee newsletter in the beginning is if you don't have that many people, at the end, put a $5 gift card. Did you make it all the way to the end? That's awesome. Here's a little something that you get. And then what you're doing is, it's Pavlov's dog, right? We all are incentive-driven machines. And so we only do the things that are positively charged for us to do more of. And so if you can give them a little endorphin rush from the activity that you want, employees will tend to do more of it. And I don't think you have to go overboard with this. You can do those 1 to 2 different activities, and you should get some results. When you treat employees well, and when you pay them well, and when you treat them consistently the same way over time, they end up staying and they tell other people about it. Happy people bring along other happy people. So I think they are going to solve this, and this business will do well as long as they can get more customers. The second thing that I might consider doing is there's a lot of junior people that, one, are interested in the vending machine space, that just like the vending machine space. And something kind of magical happens when a young, hungry kid goes to older, tried and true vets and asks them if they'll take a chance on their business. And what I've found is often we use them as deal sourcers in our business, but people will tell them things and people will give them access that sometimes they won't give people like you or me because, I don't know, there's some guard up or maybe a little bit more on their level. If you had a niece, a nephew or whatever, and you could teach them the door knocking portion, and you could say, you have skin in the game in this business with me because I will give you a percentage for as long as you work with me of X that you do. And let me set you up. And I want you to go on these routes. And here's how I want you to do it. And I want you to do it from a perspective of, I am a naive young kid. And I actually have this business that I'm working on with my friend. And, we're really good. We partnered up with a serious operator, but would you guys take a chance, on a young kid who wants to do something like this? And that's also really hard to turn down. And then it's not an apples comparison of here's a big guy versus you. It's, do you want to take a chance on somebody who reminds you of yourself 20 years ago or not?
That's really fabulous because I actually run this business with my daughter who's 17.
Oh,
I think it's a great opportunity for her to learn. So she's been with me throughout this whole journey. And that's kind of a big selling point from on my website is about, hey, this is a father-daughter endeavor and it was meant to bring us together, right? So I would just have to work with her getting past the hurdle of talking to people. So not that it's unsurmountable, but kids these days don't seem to want to talk to adults. And so, but I also have an ambitious 18-year-old daughter who is definitely the talker. So
yeah, you could send the 2 of them out. Let the one who's not the talker be the logistics and she might be really good at keeping the other one on focus and making sure she does, the amount that she wants to do in order to close. But I love that. That could be a really cool additional little venue for you. I love that this is a father-daughter business. I work with my dad. He actually is employed at this firm and was at one of the others that I ran previously, as was my mom and brother, actually. So I think it's really cool. Also, this is a great starter business for a 17-year-old. It's not that complex. It's pretty low scale. You're not going to have a ton of expenses called CapEx in order to run these businesses. And so I like vending machines. They're like a gateway drug business. I think if you're young and hungry, starting with something like a vending machine is an interesting way to see what does it look like to have a P&L and to run a business day to day. I think they'll be successful in this business because he's putting in a lot of work and he's bringing in other people to help them. I think at some point this business will seem too small. They'll probably sell it. Maybe he sells it to his daughter and it's her business that she runs, and then he goes and tackles a bigger business. Maybe the last idea I have for you, and then we should circle back. I like to have a guy in a city. And so, I'm thinking of Rob Built because he's in Houston, but I might try to find who is the sort of like influencer or somebody who talks about real estate in Corpus Christi, if there is one. And can you befriend somebody like that who in a small market, everybody might actually follow them? I did that with Rob. And so now if ever I need something in Houston, or also if I need something in tiny homes, because he kind of specializes in tiny homes and Airbnbs,
sure.
He's my go-to. And he can get to almost anybody in the industry. So you might, depending on how big your business is, want to do something fun where you're like, you know what? I want to give you a vending machine route. Me and my team are actually going to run it, but I'm going to give you like 3 machines. I'm going to give you, and by it, I'm just going to give you the affiliate revenue, on it. And if I sell, this particular portion of the business, you can get something from it, but we could create content around it and you could talk about, how you're serving the neighborhood or whatever. And,
Sure.
And I might consider trying to find a center of influence online too. But I think the first 2 ways are better than that last one. That last one could maybe just be more fun for your daughters.
Do you know how would you go about finding like those influencers in your area like that?
I think you can train your algorithm pretty quickly. One, I would stick your 18-year-old on it. She's going to be better at this than either one of us. But typically they're on Instagram, easiest to find.
Okay.
And you just Google around for like Corpus Christi real estate. And once you start like kind of following accounts like this, your feed just gets redirected to them nonstop.
Okay.
And so that's, I think, where I would start. But I also don't think you should do too many tactics at once. You already have one tactic, so now you get to pick one more to add and do aggressively for the next 30 to 60 days and highly document it. And then you add the next one, the next 30 or 60 days. When I ran our sales team in Latin America at First Trust, I allowed our sales teams to have 2 big tactics that they try consistently. And so at any given time, you might have 2 new ways you go to sell people things. The reason why sales tactics don't usually work isn't even the tactic, it's the commitment. Do you stick with it for 60 to 90 days? Do you track your progress? And are you actually progressing in it? Or are you skipping and hopping from tactic to tactic because none of them have immediate results? Get a program, stick with the program, change it if it doesn't work after 90 days. That was my plan. I hear you've had some exciting happenings since we last chatted. So I wanted to hear kind of what's going down for me too.
After a conversation, one of the key items that I kind of clawed into was sending someone younger out to go out and try to see if they can't get this location. And my daughter is visiting me from college for the month. And so she's got a lot of time in her hands. And I was like, hey, Maya, do you want to earn some extra money? And so I am paying her per machine that she placed. And so we put together a strategy and then she went out.
That's amazing. So you're making your daughter do all the hard work? So that's what's happening here?
Yeah. She's more successful at it than I am. So
So what happened? You went out, Maya, and you closed some vending machines?
Yeah, I did. First day, actually, we closed the first one. So it worked out really well. Got a couple leads at some other places that we're waiting to hear back on. But yeah, so we got one for sure, first day.
Oh, that's huge. Wait, so tell me what that was like. Have you ever done anything like that before?
No, I haven't really. So I was honestly really nervous. I didn't really know what to expect, especially because I don't know as much as my dad does about the whole vending machine business. So it was definitely a learning curve, but he gave me a list of potential places to visit, and then I just drove around and kind of gave a little pitch. And
that's amazing. What did they tell you? Were they like, yes, we're in? Or did they say we want more information? How did that go down?
Yeah, so I got a lot of no's at first, and then actually the one we got a solid yes on was the last one that I was gonna go stop at. And so I went in, there was a nice person up at the front desk, and she was like, here, let me get someone to talk to you. And he came out, asked for some more information, gave him as much as I knew. And yeah, so he seemed interested, and then I gave him our contact information, and then my dad reached out to him the next day and gave him all the extra information I didn't know. So
did you guys do a dance when you got done at the end?
I was pretty excited.
Yeah.
And then the most important question I think now, Maya, is, are you now the richest of all of your friends?
I'm definitely not the richest, but I'm one step closer after getting that one vending machine place. So
I love it. Well, that's really cool. I think it's awesome, Ross, what you're doing with your daughter, teaching her the ropes real time while you're in it. It's really cool. Thanks for sharing your story with us. We have a belief that you can't be what you can't see. And I had no idea you could do stuff like this when you were young, and that I could have done it when I was in college. So I think it's cool that you guys share your story so that the next gen gets to see it.